every kid, tell me if I'm wrong, parents, isn't this like the default for every single kid? Every single kid does this. You're gonna get this for like the first 5 years. They love doing this to every song. This is the little kid dance. You're gonna get it. Probably not on their wedding day, but like, don't they all just do the little bounce? Every little toddler. This one's a Reddit story, okay? I'll still pull it up on screen. Am I the a-hole for not inviting my dad's partner to my micro-wedding dinner and for not reaching out to her first to explain why? Using a throwaway to not connect this to my partner and I are getting married this summer, and we've decided to essentially elope. We're going to have a private ceremony, just the two of us, during our honeymoon. Not only does this align very much with who we are, so no one in our life is very surprised by this, but we're also doing it because, one, our family lives scattered across the world, and a larger event would mean leaving a lot of people out. And two, we want to avoid drama. However, what we do want to do is get dressed up, take photos, and have a dinner together with our immediate families. So essentially, a micro non-wedding celebration. This is where the issues start. So I told my parents I wanted to have this very small event with just them, my partner, and my sister, not including their new partners. My parents went through a nasty divorce when I was in my teens, and for several reasons that I explained to them, I wanted an intimate event, just the five of us. My mom was fully supportive, saying she can understand why this would be so meaningful for me. My dad understood too, but he wanted me to be the one to break the news to his partner, a 54-year-old female. I didn't think I had to, because it's not like I'm calling every single other family member who isn't invited to explain this decision. But I said that if she's upset, she's more than welcome to call me and we can talk about it. His partner is very sensitive, and we've clashed a lot over the years because I don't think she's ever been fully willing to understand the nuances of coming into a family after a divorce. Their relationship started shortly after the divorce, and she tried to parent both my sister and I, who were teens/preteens from the get-go. But even though we're not close, I've done my best to be otherwise welcoming and kind. Now he's told her and all hell has broken loose. She's completely beside herself, and he wants me to mitigate the issue and reach out. I've reiterated that she's free to call me if she can't possibly understand why this is about me and not her, and I can understand she's disappointed, but so is, I assume, everyone else. Then she should reach out to me. Am I the a-hole for not inviting her, and for not breaking the news to her, and for refusing to be the first person to reach out to her to resolve this? I can kind of see my dad's point. Who says I should be extra mindful of her since she is a sensitive person who has had a hard time accepting we're not very close and takes this personally? However, at the same time, I don't think I'm responsible for her feelings or for cleaning up this mess. I also believe in the idea of my wedding, my choice. Yeah, this is definitely one of those kinds of stepmoms. Whereas earlier in the stream we talked about a certain kind of boy mom, there is definitely a certain kind of stepmom. This one doesn't exactly teeter on the exact edge of being a step monster, if you've ever heard of that term, but is very close. And having been a stepmom for a significant period of time, having previously joined like Facebook groups and support groups for being a stepmom, I have seen like the worst of the worst types of stepmom. And this is a very common trope where the stepmom will come into the picture and just right off the jump start playing mom. And as I talked about earlier when we were discussing, you know, a step-parent's role and how you're supposed to slowly ingratiate yourself with the child, take the biological parent's lead, kind of step back a little bit, there are certain stepmoms and stepfathers who just bust the door in, guns a-blazing, like, I'm the parent now, and it's just especially with preteens and teenagers, that is one of the quickest ways to speed run them going absolutely no contact with you, having absolutely no respect for you whatsoever, because especially with teenagers and older stepchildren, they already have parents that imaginably probably butt heads with quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? Parents who like they've had to build their own relationship with over many years. Now you are appearing
appearing in their lives, seemingly out of thin air, and in many cases when they didn't want you to. There are a lot of children who never wanted their parents to divorce. They want their parents to be together. And if their parents are not together, they certainly don't need any extra parental figures bossing them around, creating new rules, new structures, new routines that they're not used to, and just kind of trying to become the boss. They already have two bosses. You're just my dad's girlfriend. You are just my mom's boyfriend to me. And there are some people where they can't stand it. And like, I understand that it's valid and fair for your feelings to be hurt if you start dating a parent and their kids don't like you. I can only imagine how awkward and uncomfortable and hurtful that could be. I would say that I kind of came into my husband and his son's life at a really good time. My now stepson was about 5 when I met him. So at that point, he had developed some independence from his parents a little bit. He's finding his own footing. He's finding out what it's like to make relationships with new adults, such as the teachers at his school, counselors, principals, stuff like that. And I think it's a really good age to meet a kid because they're also like too young to have that teenage sass and absolute rebellion toward you. And also, you know, in my situation, my husband and his ex were never married. So my son never really knew what it was like for his parents to be together. So there was also that caveat. I think he was kind of at that point almost ready for his parents to move on, especially since he'd met like dozens of his mom's boyfriends by that point. But I digress. It's fine to have your feelings hurt and feel a little sad at the rejection of your partner's child. It's not fine to use guilt tripping and emotional manipulation to try to weasel your way into a relationship with the child. Because at that point, I'm questioning your intentions and motivations. For me, I wanted to have a good relationship with my husband's son because I knew we would be around each other a lot and it would just be cool if we got along and respected each other. But for some of these stepmoms, it is almost a competition from the very beginning of the adventure. They come in and they're like, I want to be not only just a new maternal figure, I want to be the mom. I want this kid to like me more than the ex. I want my husband to like me more than the ex. I want everything to be more than and better than the ex. And I'm going to prove that I'm the right one who is supposed to be here all along. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this. You know what I mean? Because if you didn't really have a genuine relationship with the child to begin with, why would you feel so entitled to really anything having to do with a relationship with the child is what strikes me as odd here. And I also don't like this whole idea of deserving to be treated with more care and harder labor simply because you're more sensitive. Again, I have some sympathy toward people who happen to be a bit more sensitive about certain things. Okay, there are some of us who just cry a little easier or whatever, but those types of people do need to understand that the world does not revolve around them. It's inappropriate to expect other people to extend greater labor and to go further out of their way for you just because you're gonna be a bitch baby about it if they don't. That's very annoying, very aggravating, very entitled. Just because you're sensitive doesn't mean that's everybody else's problem. Yeah, sure, I guess I'll step on a few more eggshells while I'm around you, but no, people are not going to flip around all of their wedding stuff because of you. And one thing that really should have de-escalated the situation from the jump is the fact that it's not like she's isolated. It's not like she's targeted. Her mom's boyfriend isn't allowed either. Stepdad's not allowed either. It's not just you. It's all step parents. It's kind of like, you know, my rule in my house is you cannot just roll up unannounced and expect me to welcome you in with open arms. There needs to be a plan or I'm not going to open the door. Have I had people get very upset by that? Yes. Are they the only people I have that rule for? Nope. I'm very indiscriminate about that. I do not care if you are my own mother. If you just come rolling up without telling me at all that you're coming over, do not expect the red carpet to be rolled out. You might have to go find a hotel. You might have to go somewhere else because you did not have the courtesy of preparing me. Do not expect any courtesy back. But if the rules are consistent for everyone, there's no reason to take it so personally. I gotta read some of y'all's comments. My weddie, my choice, says Dylan. And yeah, I love this too. It is not the wedding person's job to manage dad's spouse's disappointment. Self-regulation is a thing. Girl, you should try it. Absolutely bomb-ass comment from Bruce Wayne over here. Not your circus, not your monkey. That's the funny thing too, is it is her circus, but that monkey was not invited. And then I agree with you too, Dazzy. The dad is being a bitch by not wanting to tell her himself and telling her it's not about her if she gets upset. Yeah, that's wild to me that the dad is like, well, can you call her and explain it? Like, you know that's going to be such a dramatic, unnecessary, cringy phone call. This type of stepmom is so annoying. The type of stepmom who shows up and thinks that she should just automatically be treated like she gave birth to the kids herself. Imagine being offered $350,000 after a devastating accident, only to have a jury award you $12.2 million instead. That's exactly what happened when Morgan & Morgan took on the case of a 70-year-old physical therapist who was unexpectedly struck by a commercial truck. The insurance company underestimated both the elderly woman and her injuries, but Morgan & Morgan didn't. Insurance companies often lowball people all the time, and most of us don't even realize it. In this case, the insurance company downplayed this woman's life-changing injuries and offered what they thought was fair. But when she decided to work with Morgan & Morgan, they didn't settle. They fought in court, getting her millions instead. That's real money and real justice. And this isn't just a one-off. Another client was only offered $200,000 after a serious crash, but Morgan & Morgan pushed it to trial and secured $2.6 million instead. That's a 1,200% increase, because most of us don't have the tools to go up against billion-dollar insurance companies on our own. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've recovered billions for their clients. And here's the thing, you don't pay anything unless they win your case. No hourly rates, no upfront fees. If you've been seriously injured, even if the offer looks decent, don't sign anything until you've talked to a real attorney. You can start your claim for free with Morgan & Morgan now at forthepeople.com/dadvocate, found in my description box below, or by scanning the QR code on screen from your phone's camera. Now that you know one more way to protect yourself, let's get back to the video. I'm sorry, but know your place. Coming from a fellow stepmom, like, no, you don't just get to, like, roll up and expect the exact same treatment as a biological parent. Like, could you imagine if at my son's wedding I was like, why aren't you letting me have the first dance? I want the first dance. Like, I wouldn't even be offended if I did not get a dance at all during the wedding. You know what I mean? Because there is a place, there is a time, there are lanes, and some things are just not replaceable. My stepson has a mom who has been involved in his life since day one, who has loved for him and changed his diapers and taken care of him from day one, grew her in her belly for 9 months, okay? I cannot replace that woman. I should never replace that woman. And yet there are so many stepmoms who do not get this at all. They really think, well, I replaced you as the wife, so this is my role. Dylan says, note to self, if I have a daughter, hope she's not into dancing. Oh, Dylan, you are sipping the same Delulu juice that one boy mom earlier did. You think any kid doesn't like dancing? Dude, every kid, tell me if I'm wrong, parents, isn't this like the default for every single kid? Every single kid does this. You're gonna get this for like the first 5 years. They love doing this to every song. This is the little kid dance. You're gonna get it. Probably not on their wedding day, but like, don't they all just do the little bounce? Every little toddler. I love it. The toddler dance bounce. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, you're gonna have to dance with that girl, honey. I'm sorry. I didn't like dancing much when I was a kid. I was very much a singer. That's another beautiful thing about kids, too, is they will just let loose and belt them out. No care in the world, no sense of social anxiety. Like, both of my kids, to this day, even the 16-year-old, will just tear out the vocals. No care in the world who's listening, who's judging. It was so fun when we took my 16-year-old to Myrtle Beach. He just like went out on the beach late at night and was just singing the top of his lungs, just living his best life. I hope he does not change. I gotta read some of these top comments. NTA, your mom's partner isn't invited either. If dad's partner is taking such personal offense to something that obviously isn't actually about her, that's her problem, not yours. And saying that they expect you, assuming 20s or 30s, to be all grown up and talk to her, but can't expect a whole person in their 50s to grow up and respect other people's wishes. Wow, what a great point. The OP says, thanks for your judgment. That's part of the issue. I, a 26-year-old female, have with it too, and why I'm digging my heels in a little, which other posters are calling immature, sure. During our entire relationship, I've always felt as though I've had to be the more accommodating, understanding, and flexible ones to her needs. I personally think my dad is the biggest fault for this, but I'd like to think that if I was joining a family, I'd be more aware. Yeah, dad definitely carries the blame for, in this case, parentifying his child. Forcing his child to be more of a grown-up than his own wife. I can tell you guys right now, TJ would never deal with this. Never. If I ever, like, held either of our kids to a standard of having to, like, emotionally cradle me, he would pull me aside and be like, this is not fucking okay. You need to get it together right now. NTA, your dad needs to accept that, as her partner, her volatile emotions are his to soothe, not yours. And even then, I still agree with the former comment that I read about self-regulation. It goes her responsibility to manage her own emotions, then her spouse's responsibility to manage her emotions, and that's pretty much where the list ends. Honestly, it should just end at you, especially by the time you're 54. But if it's anybody besides hers, it's her husband's. Okay? You made it clear that you're being kind enough to be available with her to chat about this, and she hasn't taken you up on that offer. Yeah, dude, what a little bitch. That's another thing that would make me respect someone less, is if I put it out there like, hey, if you want to talk about this, call me. And they're like, I don't want to call. It gives me too much anxiety. Okay, then stop acting like an adult. This is an adults only micro wedding. The children can stay at home. At this point, she's being a drama queen just for the effect. I also wonder, like, what it seems to me in a lot of these situations is that these stepmothers who come into the picture and make every single freaking thing a woe is me, the kids don't like me, the kids don't want to listen to me, I feel like no one's accepting me, and can you please tell them to, like, include me? Can you please tell the kids to be nicer to me? Can you please tell the kids to, like, hug me? This pattern of behavior, once the enabling begins, there's no shot it ends, because that's how they get their dopamine hit. That's how they get their instant gratification and their instant attention. And when you are in a situation where you're the step parent, it can be rough, right? Because you are in a situation where you're automatically entering a relationship where you're not the number one priority. And a lot of people can't handle that. For me, it was something I was 100% okay with, because I was never under the impression that you should necessarily be your partner's number one priority with or without kids. I think, honestly, maybe this is a controversial opinion, but my opinion is that in any relationship, you should always be making yourself the number one priority, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you don't take care of you, then you don't have what it takes to take care of anybody else. So you have to prioritize you, especially because no one else is ever going to be able to take care of you the way that you can. No one knows what's going on inside your head. No one knows what your body feels like, if you're thirsty, if you're hungry, if something hurts, if you're upset. No one knows that stuff. So you have to be able to self-regulate in order to be able to take care of other people. And so going into the relationship with my husband, it was made clear to me from day one, I have a son. So I'm like, okay, if I date you, I know that you have a son. I know son comes first. And me personally, I would have lost respect for TJ if he ever prioritized me over his son. If there was ever a day that I was like, hey, do you want to hang out this weekend? And he was like, oh, well, you know, my son has a baseball game or whatever, but I can skip it to hang out with you. I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? No, you're not. Like, I would be so grossed out by that. But there are some other step parents who expect that, who are like, well, you can skip your weekend with the kids. It's me we're talking about. We deserve a date. You haven't been on a date with me in so long. You don't need to see your kid. You see them every other weekend already. And it's like, dude, that's the most toxic kind of person. If any of you have a child and you're out there dating right now, I cannot stress enough that one of the biggest red flags that you should absolutely look at and say, that's the only red flag I need, time to run, is if they ever actively encourage you to stop spending time with your kid. For any reason. Such a damn red flag, dude. Absolutely terrible. But also this micro stuff of, I don't like that your kid gets more attention than me. I don't like that your kid is having a hard time adapting to my presence in their life after a tragically devastating divorce. Like, if you're gonna date someone that you intend to turn into a stepdad or a stepmom, they need to have more emotional maturity than a grape, okay? They're gonna have a high level of self-confidence, emotional regulation, and ability to see through obstacles. Otherwise, they are not ready. They are not ready. I would not recommend the position of a step parent to just anyone at all. Only the strongest of soldiers, the most mature, the most ready to genuinely accept another person's tiny human into their life, who is genuinely ready to accept that they will be forever, even beyond the age of 18, bonded to their partner's ex, and be able to handle that and be humble and graceful about it. Those are the only people I would recommend it to. Because being a step parent is not for the weak, and it is certainly not for the sensitive and dumb.